Hello folks, I have had to record this again for a very slightly obscure reason. I sang a little ditty in my last video just on a whim, and that, it was a Disturbed song, right, called Prayer, and I've always liked that song, so I was caught singing it on the video by accident, right? Only for YouTube to flag it as having that song in the actual video. I don't know why it's done that, but it has. So apparently I have some talent as a, Disturbed tribute artist somewhere down the line. But nevertheless, we are here, and we are here to do a video that the subject of this I did a few years ago, and it is what games in your store make for the worst customers. And I put this out there to the WhatsApp and obviously on the Discord as well, asking people what their opinions were and to send me in some emails to keep them nice and short so I could read multiple of them out. And I picked the 4 or 5 best ones that we had through our conversations over the past few months. These are all from either current hobby store workers or ex-hobby store workers who have their opinions on what kind of games in their stores make for the worst customers. There are some controversial takes in this video. Not all of them are mine. Just gonna put that out there, and I will be passing comment on each and every single one of these. Some of them are funnier than others. Some of them are quite serious. So let's jump in, shall we? You've all gone to your local hobby store, I know, and I bet you've most of the time wondered what your hobby staff maybe think of you and the other people in your game section. Well, let's dive in. And just because, I will say this one thing, just because one community in one area of the world is pretty bad, doesn't mean that that community is going to be pretty bad everywhere. Do you know what I mean? So if we say, like that say Warhammer Age of Sigmar is really bad in, say, Sheffield at the moment, it's not. I don't know if it is or not. That doesn't mean it's bad in the whole of the UK. Do you know what I mean? It's just that particular crowd are ruining that store. So let's dive in with Dave from Bristol. So certain people have narrowed down their locations. That is up to them. I've not told them to do so, and other people haven't. So Dave from Bristol, and he says, in my store, it's Warhammer 40,000. Sorry, everybody. I think we may have just been unlucky and have a bad bunch, but they are generally overweight, smelly, and to be honest, just what you would think the prevailing mental image of a Warhammer fan is. Not only that though, these dudes are meme lords. They know every reference an Emperor has a text-to-speech device and quote the show very loudly during and around games until other customers literally have to walk outside to talk about the hobby and then quickly return to the store to get what they want, holding their noses whilst doing so before leaving. I'm not the manager, and I am literally here until my master's degree kicks off again in late September. But my lord, do these guys ruin what is in general a really fun store. They also tend to be the ones who spend the most of their time in the store without actually buying anything. That's why my manager puts up with them is utterly beyond me. Okay, lots to unpack there. What you've just described is the average experience of, if you ask any Games Workshop manager what he thinks of his customers, like the bad ones, Dave's pretty much given us the rundown there of what that is, right? Every Games Workshop manager out there who says, listen, I have some problem people in my store. If you ask them to describe what they mean, they're describing this, okay? Smelly, overweight, unkempt man-children who like to shout a lot in the store. That's just literally where we are. Now, again, I'm very sorry that he has this kind of a bad, so we say a bad community around his store. But I've also known of very many Warhammer places, Warhammer communities that have been absolutely brilliant going across the board, right? That have been very supportive and awesome. I think you get elements of these kind of people in every single Games Workshop or hobby store. You just do, and it doesn't matter what game you're involved in, and it doesn't matter whether it's Warhammer or not. It just, Warhammer is the largest hobby. I've said this before in videos like this. It's the largest hobby, so you're going to get the most wide-ranging spectrum of folks, right? And if 1 in 10 wargamers is an absolute chode, like one of these dudes is, right? Well, if Warhammer has 10 million players and other games have about 500,000, you're going to meet more chodes from Warhammer 40,000 than any other hobby. But that doesn't mean that the community at large is like this. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, my problem customers were very similar. You know, very loud, very obnoxious, very quotey. Like, they would quote things from the lore at really high volumes, obnoxiously so. And you'd be like, dude, you know, I know you don't have autism. I know you don't have ADHD. So why are you acting like a prat in my store, right? Why are you driving away other customers by acting like a weirdo? Stop it. Anyway, next up is Jen. A lady. Hooray. Jen from Liverpool. Oh dear. Oh dear. One in my backyard. Let's read what Jen has to say. She says, I want Magic the Gathering out of my store. I want Magic the Gathering out of my store. I swear. The amount of salty arguments it causes amongst man-children really makes my job a ridiculous grind, my dude. This is what I've wanted to do since coming out of the army a few years ago, working in a store like this for a decent wage that I can pay my rent with. And it is completely ruined by idiots pointing fingers at each other and getting angry over a game of cards with magical furry creatures on them. Oh. I have seen normal-looking dudes in suits and decent clothes come into this store, get their deck out during to play a game, only to end up in a slanging match with their opponents over one broken tactic or another. It genuinely ruins my day, as, since being in the forces, I really do not like confrontation and really loud shouting. It just triggers my defences, and my defences usually involve lashing out in anger and frustration. I'm actually the assistant manager, and whenever I get my days to run the store, we do not run Magic the Gathering events, and when we do run them, I tend to go elsewhere in the store. Cancer, be gone. Like, again, I will say this about Magic the Gathering. I will say this. This is not the first person to come out with something like this about Magic the Gathering to me. You know, we've had many nightmares on the channel that have revolved around friends not being friends anymore over this game. I'm being serious. Like, many hobby nightmares where we've had dudes come together and play a game of Magic the Gathering and just sooner or later they just stop being mates, because it seems to me, do you know when people say, well, 40k is a game full of gotchas? Magic the Gathering seems to me, you know, it's gotcha the game. It's literally made for broken combinations to help you win the game, right? Like, that is how the game, every single game that I've seen at a high level, a high skill level, involves some kind of gotcha, involves some kind of, you know, snowball going downhill effect of frustration for the person who's not winning the game, right? So I'm not surprised that this is happening in your store. The problem with Magic the Gathering is it makes so much money. People just buy these cards that are worth nothing. They're cards. They're worth nothing. And they go in and they pay you top dollar for these cards that you, as a hobby store, you don't pay a lot of money for Magic the Gathering cards. You don't, right? Seen it myself. You don't. Okay? You pay some money, yes, absolutely. They're not free, right? You have to pay for them. You have to get them into your stock and all that kind of stuff. But you do get them at a markdown price because you're buying them in bulk, and you can sell them at the price you do sell them at is a huge markup on the industry standard when you get them in for a retail purchase, right? So you're making money hand over fist, and that is why Magic the Gathering tends to get such a bad rep, because, you know, it's always going to be in independent hobby stores because it makes that much money. But it also encourages really bad behaviors. Really bad. Alright, moving on. Mark from New York. Hey, you've got a yank. Excellent. He says, he's the first person, right, to actually introduce himself because this was on an email and not on a WhatsApp. So there we go. Mark says, yo, Marky Mark here. Not that one. I'd love it if it was Mark Wahlberg, man. That'd be so funny. In my store, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! That's kind of driving other people away, man. Like, it seems to attract the worst of the worst. Grown men acting like they are still in middle school. Not only that, I've noticed a load of bronies coming in and playing the game, getting really unbalanced about their own play or their opponents, and generally being idiots around other people. It is a game for the gutter scum of the hobby, and nobody will ever convince me otherwise. Okay, that's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh. Let me take a sip of my coffee, one sec. Yeah, that's a bit harsh. I don't know whether I would categorize an entire game as being bad for the hobby. I wouldn't even do that with Warhammer 40k and similar games like it, right? That are outwardly hostile to people around sometimes when they come in to play the game. Not even Magic the Gathering's that, do you know what I mean? So, bronies, on the other hand, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've never met a normal one. Maybe you have. Maybe you have. But please know that when I'm saying this, and it's not just me being like a schoolyard bully and saying, oh, you bronies, weirdos. No. I've literally never met a normal man who likes My Little Pony. And I don't understand why that's a controversial take. I don't get that. I have never met a normal man who likes My Little Pony. You know, unironically. Now, I've known dudes who like My Little Pony in the time it takes to get into a girl's pants. Like, I've seen that many a time, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, you see a girl, like you know, a girl in her 20s, and she's still into My Little Pony because it's really, she just finds it cool, right? I've known dudes to get into it, like, yeah, totally, I'll watch that with you, and then, you know, it's Netflix and chill, you know, it's that kind of thing. I've known that, but they swiftly get out of it again when the woman's no longer around. Or as soon as they leave the apartment afterwards, in certain instances. But I've never known a guy to honestly be into My Little Pony who is normal. Okay? They've always had a deal. They've always had something else going on. Abuse when they were younger, rampant autism, you know, general degeneracy that has nothing to do with those previous two things. Being a general degenerate who's a bit weird around people who are not of age, right? That's happened quite a few times. Again, if I see a My Little Pony t-shirt, it just rubs me up the wrong way. I just look at you and I go, yeah, me and you are probably not going to be best bros. You know, you may be the nicest person in the world, but in the back of my mind, I'll always be thinking, ticking time bomb. There are issues here that need ironing out. That's just me, man. And please don't jump down my throat. I've just never met a normal one. I call it like I see it. It is what it is, right? It is. That is the experience I have lived in my life. And, you know, I'm the kind of person who, you can tell me something all you want. If I've lived something different, then I'm not going to listen to you. Right? If I'm literally living something different to what you're telling me, no. Like, you can tell me people, oh, the bronies are normal. You know, I get this all the time. Oh, no, you're being really prejudiced. Like, bronies are really normal people. Okay, where are they then? Then where are they? Are you one? No? Okay, well, then where are they? You point me out one and we'll see, right? But that's not what I've lived. You know, and this is somebody, again, I worked for Games Workshop. I worked for a hobby store back in the day as well, right? I've worked in the hobby for, you know, upwards of 8-9 years, something like that, you know? In and around it. Dude, I've met hundreds, perhaps thousands of hobbyists from all different areas of the hobby. Not one brony has been normal. Not one, you know? And I've met many. Anyway, thanks, Mark. You're a bit harsh on Yu-Gi-Oh! And there's going to be a lot of people into Yu-Gi-Oh! In the comments going, that's not what they're like. But, you know, there we go. Paul from the UK. This may be my last one of the video, because this is going to take a while, because this is a longer one. All right? Okay. He says, and this is another email, so thank you very much for sending me the email, Paul. Hi, North. In my store, it's literally Dungeons and Dragons. controversial. Controversial. Let's see what he has to say. That part of the store has been nuked from orbit by utter weirdos. We used to have blokes who looked like Bardic Broadcast or something like that coming in and taking people on massive fantasy adventures in a corner of the store that actually brought members of the public over to watch. Okay, for those of you who don't know, the Bard from Bardic Broadcast is this big, jolly, bearded man who seems like he'd be a really good DM. Like, he's like John Rhys Davies from Lord of the Rings, right? He'd be a really good DM if he wanted to do it. Yeah, so anyway. People would literally come into the store, see what was happening on the back table around the candles, with the D&D game being played, go over and spectate for an hour or more before asking if there was a sign-up sheet. Dude, that is amazing. That is amazing. We sold a lot of miniatures and store time for campaigns like that throughout the 90s and 2000s. It was a brilliant time, and to be honest, when D&D first entered the mainstream, all that happened was that these amazing DMs in our store had more people to play with. Then, as always, politics ruined everything. Okay, we can see where this is going to go. I think we can see where this is going to go. We had more and more people coming in and demanding that the entire game conform to their sensibilities and worldviews. We had multiple childish meltdowns in the store from grown adults in-store games all the time from the same kind of people. Blue-haired alphabet people who literally introduced themselves with their pronouns like it was an honorific title or something. It got to the stage that most of the bearded old guard, the actual amazing dungeon masters, just left the store to run games in their own homes and rented areas rather than spend time in the store with these utter cretins. Now, all we have in our role-playing section are a load of super inclusive and rabidly non-binary weirdos putting on ridiculous voices and acting out perverted furry fantasies that loosely resembles a D&D session. If any other game gets played in the store, they complain, especially if it is problematic, quote-unquote. I left the store in 2014 as manager when all of this first started, but I'm still popping in now and again to buy something and see how things are going. Well, this is how they are going. Aside from 5 to 10 utter weirdos acting out strange fantasies, the RPG market in our store is dead. It makes no money, it just takes up space. Dude, that is how you kill a scene 101. Okay, if you want I'm a big proponent of positive gatekeeping. All right, positive gatekeeping. Now I'm actually writing an RPG right now, right, and I do a note on positive gatekeeping. I'm going to read it for you, right? I'm going to read it for you. All right. You are allowed to be offended by what goes on in this game. You are not allowed to ruin everybody else's good time by being so. To avoid any confusion as to the kind of world we are playing in and the events that could occur within, I advise you perform a Session 0, a brief get-together to preview what kind of game Oathbound, the game I'm writing, is, and what kind of game you are about to run. Heinous acts of humanity should almost never be shown explicitly at the tabletop. We are not here to fetishize awful things, but to tell stories about desperate struggles. In this spirit, any sort of graphic, actual violence, actions involving those not of age, or extreme animal cruelty should be kept far away from any table worth its salt, in my opinion. The fact that this sentence needs writing in this day and age is a sorry state of affairs. In a grim, dark game like this, however, it is necessary to spell it out. You may think that it is strange that I bring these things up, but there are people out there who will say, well, it happened in the Middle Ages, so it can happen at my table. If you require role-playing game safety tools, shudder, to keep such dark and insipid behaviours from spoiling your game, then I suggest you find yourself another, better group of adults to roleplay with as soon as possible. Grown, mature and responsible adults who are playing a role-playing game do not require safety tools. A Session 0 allows the Lore Master, our version of a Dungeon Master, to show the world to the players, reveal the darkness of it, and be upfront in the themes they wish to convey within it. It is also a very good chance for both sides, Lore Master and Role Player, to do some positive gatekeeping if need be. The act of gatekeeping is the notion of excluding others from your hobby or group, of watching the gate and making sure that folks coming in are doing so with the best of intentions in mind. Gatekeeping should never be used to keep those away from your hobby or table that you do not like due to your own prejudices. Instead, it should keep out bad actors who wish to change your hobby into something that it is not, or to gently usher away folks who may not enjoy your hobby at all. Positive gatekeeping works exactly like this, and it swings both ways. In your Session 0, do not be afraid to advise somebody to sit out oathbound if they are showing signs of real unease or stress at covering the Middle Ages in a fantasy world, warts and all. This game will not be for everybody, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. What has happened in this store is that they have disregarded every single bit of that advice and allowed these weirdos to come into their store and nuke their entire community, right? It's done. It is done. There is no role-playing community in that store anymore, right? But that is verbatim how I feel about gatekeeping, laid out in a game I'm actually writing, that in a game that's actually going to be published, right? That I'm setting out my stall there so you know where I come from, all right? Let's carry on with what Paul has to say. He has a bit more here to talk about. I get what you're going to say, North. I am some far right-leaning idiot who is butthurt his hobby was taken over by nice people. No, I'm not going to say that at all. Or maybe you won't. You tend to be down the middle, I guess. The thing is, I am a quite liberal person, and I'm actually gay. Wow. Okay. Cool. I find the over-sexualization of being gay utterly disgusting. We are just normal people and need to be treated that way for better or worse. That is what we fought for decades after all. Marching through the streets with pride, with your wang out in front of kids, enforces every negative stereotype there is of gay people, and if you do that, you're an utter piece of scum, in my opinion. These people have infected my favourite hobby in my favourite store that I worked for 10 plus years, and that I met my husband at. And they turned it into an absolute cesspit of that kind of degeneracy. I am ashamed to be associated with them, and the hobby needs to cut them out completely. Cheers, Paul. Wow. That was from left field. I did not see that plot twist coming. Okay. Dude, I'm not going to comment on your life experience because they're not mine, right? I'm not gay after all. I can see where you're coming from. Like, in Liverpool, we have Pride. You know, we do have Pride marches and stuff. And sometimes walking past them and seeing what kids are looking at, I'm like, dude, really? Really? I mean, you know, like, is that... Do you think that's cool? Like, is that okay? Like, I don't think that's okay, you know? But if you say that kind of thing, you're labelled some sort of bigot, or you're labelled some sort of, you know... But you're not, right? You're not. You just don't want that kind of thing to be shown in public. You know, common decency, you know, common modesty. You know, have fun. Go out and have fun, no problem, right? But there are places where you can go and indulge in that kind of thing without being on the street where everybody can see you. So I get what you're trying to say, right? I do get what you're trying to say. And it must be really frustrating for you to be actually gay and to actually have this kind of thing thrown in your face all the time, right? I know, listen, I've met a lot of folks over the years who are either bisexual, greedy, in other words, or openly gay, right? Or closeted gay. I met a few of those too. A few of my very good friends are homosexual, you know. And some of the manliest men I know are gay. I'm being serious. Like, some of the manliest men I know are gay. And they do not like men who prance around exhibiting, like, oh, look at me, you know, that kind of stuff. They don't like it, They're just like, no, that's not. You're playing up to it. Like you stop doing that. You could be a normal dude who just likes being on the end of a dick. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you do what you do, you man. That's the kind of world that these people fought for ages. Is for us to be, non-judging of who they are, and we don't, and it's fine, and you shouldn't. You know, you live your own life, you do what you want to do, man. Find your happiness where you find it. But it's almost gone. I get what you're saying, Paul. It's almost gone too far the other way, where now it's like everybody needs to walk out in the streets with their dicks out. Why? Because it's free and it's expressive, and we're not ashamed of who we are, dude. No one's shaming you. Who is shaming you? Especially in a city like this. Like, who is shaming you? So I get what you mean, and I'm really sorry that you've had to go through that, and that your community has kind of been, as you term it here, what did you say? Nuked from orbit, right? It would be frustrating to me, but as a straight dude, it's something I just don't get, quote unquote. So I have that insulation there, where you don't, because you're gay, and you're like, that's not cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not insulated from it at all. That's got to be super frustrating, and I'm sorry you had to go through it. But yeah, what do you guys think is the worst game in your store that you've come across? What have we covered today? We've had Warhammer 40k, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Dungeons and Dragons. So I would class those as the big four, which is why I picked them out, essentially, you know, from everything that I got sent in. But what do you guys think? Are the games in your store that you think are utterly attractive to really negative people in your store space? Let me know in the comment section down below. I love you a long time, and I will see you tomorrow on Friday for some more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye now.